I am Dolores, 58 years old. My hands trembled as I stood at the airport terminal, watching my son Thomas walk away with my $40,000. 5 years of overtime shifts and savings for our Hawaii trip just vanished. I thought this vacation would bring us closer, heal old wounds. Instead, Thomas looked me in the eye and said, "I forgot to buy you a ticket. Go home." My heart shattered right there. If you are watching this now, please let me know where you are from. In the comments, hit that like and subscribe button and stay for what happened next. The betrayal was just the beginning. Life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect it. 8 years ago, my husband Jack died in a car accident on his way to work. One minute we were planning our retirement, the next I was planning his funeral. After 40 years of marriage, I suddenly found myself alone in our 3-bedroom home in Chicago, surrounded by memories, but no one to share them with. My son Thomas was 35, living in Seattle with his wife Stephanie and their 2 children, my precious grandchildren, Amanda and Jaden. Amanda was 10, a bright, compassionate little girl with her grandfather's eyes. Jaden was 7, energetic and always curious about everything. I missed them terribly. The house felt so empty during holidays and weekends, the silence sometimes unbearable. After Jack died, I continued working as a registered nurse at Chicago Memorial Hospital. The busy shifts in the oncology ward kept my mind occupied, but the nights were lonely. I picked up extra weekend shifts and volunteered for holiday coverage. My coworkers thought I was just being helpful, but truthfully, I dreaded going home to an empty house. Throughout those difficult years, I always tried to stay connected with Thomas and his family. I called every Sunday evening, sent care packages for the kids monthly, and made sure to remember every birthday and anniversary with thoughtful gifts. But over time, I noticed the calls getting shorter. Thomas always seemed distracted or busy. Sometimes Stephanie would answer and quickly make excuses about why Thomas could not come to the phone. "He is tied up with a work project," she would say, or "he just took the kids out for ice cream." The times I did speak with Thomas, he rarely volunteered information about their lives. I had to pry details about the children's school activities or their vacation plans. It hurt, but I told myself he was just busy with his marketing executive job and family responsibilities. When I turned 57, I made a decision. After decades of putting everyone else first as a nurse and mother, I would retire when I turned 60 and treat my family to the vacation of a lifetime. Hawaii had always been my dream destination. Jack and I had planned to go for our 40th anniversary, but he passed away 6 months before that milestone. Now I wanted to create new memories there with the only family I had left. I calculated that I needed about $40,000 to cover a luxury vacation for all 5 of us. First-class flights, a beautiful resort on Maui, activities for the children, fine dining and shopping money. I wanted to do it right to give them an experience they would never forget. The saving process was arduous, but gave me purpose. I took on extra night shifts that many of my younger colleagues avoided. Every bonus check went straight into my Hawaii fund. I skipped small luxuries like my weekly hair appointments and cut back on everything but necessities. When friends invited me to dinner or shows, I often declined, opting instead to pick up an extra shift. I even sold some of my jewelry, keeping only the pieces Jack had given me that held sentimental value. "You work too hard, Dolores," my friend Marjorie often said. "When was the last time you did something nice for yourself?" "I am doing something nice," I would respond. "I am building a memory with my family that will last forever." By the time I had saved $30,000, I decided to call Thomas and share my plans. I chose a Tuesday evening, knowing he usually got home from work early on Tuesdays. "Thomas, I have been thinking," I began after our usual brief catch-up. "I am planning to retire next year when I turn 60, and I want to celebrate with a special family trip." "That sounds nice, Mom," he replied, his voice non-committal. I could hear the television in the background. "I want to take all of us to Hawaii for 2 weeks." I continued, my excitement building despite his lukewarm response. "First-class tickets, a beautiful resort, the works. My treat for everyone." There was a pause on the line. The television volume suddenly lowered. "Hawaii, all of us." His tone shifted, interest creeping in. That would be pretty expensive, Mom. I have been saving, I said proudly. I have almost $40,000 set aside just for this trip. The silence that followed was brief but noticeable. When Thomas spoke again, his voice had completely changed, warm and enthusiastic. Wow, Mom, that is incredibly generous. Hold on, let me get Stephanie. She will want to hear this too. I smiled to myself, picturing my son and his wife sitting together as I shared my dream. Maybe this was exactly what we needed to become close again. When Stephanie joined the call, her reaction was immediate and enthusiastic, nothing like the polite but distant attitude she usually showed me. Dolores Thomas just told me about Hawaii. What an amazing idea, she gushed. I have always wanted to go to Maui. When were you thinking of going? Her sudden interest caught me off guard, but it was refreshing. Perhaps I had misjudged our relationship all these years. I was thinking next summer, I replied. After my 60th birthday in June. The weather should be perfect then, and the children will be out of school. That is absolutely perfect, Stephanie said. I can already picture us all on the beach. The Four Seasons in Wailea is supposed to be incredible. My friend Janet stayed there last year. I was surprised by how quickly she had a specific resort in mind, but pleased by her enthusiasm. I would love to start looking at resorts and flights, I offered. I could make the bookings and send you all the details. Oh, no, Stephanie said quickly. Let me handle all of that. I am really good at finding travel deals and putting together itineraries. I plan all our vacations. Thomas chimed in. Stephanie is amazing at this stuff, Mom. She will make sure we get the best experience possible. Well, if you are sure, I said, though I had been looking forward to researching the trip myself. I can transfer the money whenever you need it for deposits. Actually, Thomas said, clearing his throat, it might be good to transfer the funds soon. The best resorts book up quickly for summer, and we would need to put down some substantial deposits to secure everything. Something about his eagerness made me pause. In all the years I had known my son, he had never been one to plan this far ahead. Still, I pushed the thought aside. This was going to be our special family bonding experience, and I was thrilled they were excited about it. Of course, I agreed. I can transfer $30,000 now, and the remaining $10,000 closer to the trip for spending money. Perfect, Stephanie exclaimed. Send it to our joint account. I will start making inquiries tomorrow. After we hung up, I sat in my living room feeling more hopeful than I had in years. Finally, I was reconnecting with my son and his family. I immediately went online and transferred the money as promised, then spent the evening looking at pictures of Hawaiian beaches and attractions, despite knowing Stephanie would handle the bookings. The next few months were a mix of excitement and subtle unease. Whenever I called to ask about the trip details, Stephanie would answer with vague responses. Everything is coming together beautifully, she would say. I am working with a travel agent who is getting us some exclusive experiences. When I asked specific questions about our flights or the resort, she would deflect. We are still comparing options for the best value. I will send you all the details once everything is confirmed. 3 months before the trip, I still had not received any confirmation emails or itineraries. When I mentioned this to Thomas, he assured me that Stephanie had everything under control. She wants it to be a surprise for you, Mom, he said. Just trust us. I tried to quiet my growing concerns. After all, this was my son. Why would I not trust him? Then came the first real warning sign that something was wrong. I called one evening hoping to speak with my grandchildren, and Amanda answered the phone. Hi, Grandma, she said cheerfully. Daddy says we are going on a big airplane soon. Yes, sweetie, I replied, smiling at her excitement. We are all going to Hawaii together. Are you excited? There was a pause before Amanda replied, sounding confused. But Mommy said you are not coming with us. She said it is just me, Jaden, her and Daddy. My heart skipped a beat. Amanda, who told you that? Mommy did. She was talking to Daddy and said Grandma gave us money for a fancy trip, but she is not coming because she is too old for the beach. Before I could respond, I heard Stephanie's voice in the background, sharp and alarmed. "Amanda, who are you talking to?" The phone rustled, and then Stephanie was on the line. "Dolores, hi," she said, her voice overly bright. "Amanda has such an imagination. She must have misunderstood something we said." "Stephanie, why would Amanda think I am not going on the trip?" I asked directly. "Oh, that is ridiculous." She laughed, though it sounded forced. "Of course you are coming. We were probably just discussing some activity that might be too strenuous. You know, the volcanic hikes or snorkeling? Nothing to worry about." When I called Thomas later to express my concerns, he was dismissive. "Mom, come on. Do you really think we would take your money and not include you? Amanda just misunderstood. Kids get things mixed up all the time." I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. So I pushed my doubts aside and continued preparing for the trip, buying new summer clothes and a special camera to document our family memories. One evening, I called again to ask about my flight itinerary, as I still had not received any confirmation. "I'm getting a bit worried, Thomas," I admitted. "The trip is only 3 weeks away, and I still do not have my flight information or hotel confirmation." "Everything is electronic now, Mom," he said with a hint of impatience. "You will get all the details the day before we leave. Stephanie has it all organized in an app." "But I would feel better having something in writing," I persisted. "Even just an email confirmation." He sighed heavily. "Fine. I will have Stephanie send you something this week." The email never came. 2 weeks before the trip, I made one last attempt, calling to ask what time they would pick me up for the airport. "I will let you know the exact time next week," Thomas said. "Our flight is in the afternoon, so probably around noon." I clung to that small piece of information like a lifeline. At least now I knew we had an afternoon flight. The final week before the trip, I called daily, but my calls increasingly went to voicemail. When Thomas finally called back, it was brief. "Mom, stop worrying so much. I will pick you up at 10 on Saturday. Have your bags ready." I spent that final week in a flutter of activity, packing and repacking my suitcase, making sure I had appropriate clothes for every possible occasion. I bought small gifts for everyone: a beautiful silk scarf for Stephanie, a high-end watch for Thomas that reminded me of one Jack used to wear, and special toys for the children. I wanted everything to be perfect. The night before our departure, I could hardly sleep. After years of planning and saving, my dream was about to come true. I would finally visit Hawaii, and more importantly, reconnect with the family that had slowly drifted away from me. Little did I know how completely wrong I was. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. I was up at 4 a.m., too excited to sleep any longer. I had my suitcase by the door, my carry-on bag packed with snacks and magazines for the long flight, and a small purse with my travel documents. Everything was ready. 10 o'clock came and went. No sign of Thomas. At 10:30, I called his cell phone. No answer. By 11, anxiety had replaced excitement. I called again, and this time he picked up. "Mom, sorry we are running late," he said, sounding rushed. "Amanda could not find her favorite stuffed animal, and then there was traffic. I will be there around noon." "But Thomas, what about making it to the airport on time?" I asked, calculating the drive to O'Hare and the recommended arrival time for international flights. "Do not worry about it. We have plenty of time," he assured me. Noon came and went. At 12:30, Thomas finally pulled up in his SUV. I hurried out with my luggage, relief washing over me. We were still going to make it. "Sorry about that," Thomas said as he loaded my suitcase into the trunk. I noticed the car was empty. "Where is everyone else?" I asked. "Already at the airport," he replied quickly. "Stephanie took the kids earlier so they could look around the shops. We will meet them at the terminal." Something felt off, but I pushed the feeling aside. We were on our way, and that was what mattered. When we arrived at the airport, I was surprised to see Stephanie and the children dressed in matching Hawaiian print outfits. Stephanie wore a flowery dress with a lei around her neck, while Thomas Jr. and Amanda wore coordinating shirts and a dress. They looked like the perfect vacation family straight out of a travel brochure. "You all look so festive," I said, smiling despite my confusion. "I did not realize we were dressing up for the flight." Stephanie gave Thomas a quick glance before turning to me with a tight smile. Just getting into the spirit early. We could have told you, but we wanted to surprise the kids. As we walked through the terminal, I noticed Stephanie constantly taking photos of Thomas, and the children posed in front of airport signs and Hawaiian-themed displays. Not once did she suggest I join them. Would you like me to take a picture of all of you together? I offered. No, that is okay, Stephanie said quickly. I want to be in the photos too. We will get plenty of family pictures in Hawaii. We approached the check-in counter for first-class passengers. The children were bouncing with excitement, and even Thomas seemed genuinely happy, more animated than I had seen him in years. Reservation for Thomas Walker, my son told the airline representative. 4 passengers to Honolulu. I felt a chill run through me. 4 passengers. The representative typed on her computer. Yes, I have your family right here. Thomas, Stephanie, Amanda, and Jaden Walker. There must be some mistake, I said, stepping forward. There should be 5 tickets. Dolores Walker should be included. The woman looked at her screen again, scrolling through the information. I am sorry, ma'am. I only show 4 passengers on this reservation. Let me double-check by name. She asked for my ID and typed again. No, I am afraid there is no Dolores Walker on this flight, or any flight to Hawaii today on our airline. I turned to Thomas' confusion and the first tendrils of fear creeping in. There must be some mix-up with the reservation. Show her my ticket information. Thomas stood there, his expression changing from feigned confusion to cold determination. He glanced at Stephanie, who gave him a small nod before turning back to me. Mom, there is no mistake, he said, his voice flat. I forgot to buy you a ticket. Just go home. I stared at him, certain I had misheard. What do you mean you forgot? How could you forget me? I paid for this entire trip. Look, this is getting awkward, he said, lowering his voice as people nearby began to stare. We have to check in now, or we will miss our flight. Thomas, I do not understand, I said, my voice breaking. I gave you $40,000 for this family trip. My family trip. Stephanie stepped closer, a small smile playing on her lips as she whispered loud enough for only me to hear. Finally, we are free of you. Thomas and I deserve this vacation after putting up with you for so long. What are you talking about? I gasped, feeling like I had been slapped. Mom, just go home, Thomas repeated firmly. We will talk when we get back. Amanda tugged at her father's sleeve. Daddy, why is Grandma not coming? You said she would meet us there later. Stephanie quickly intervened. Grandma changed her mind, sweetheart. She decided she would rather stay home. But she looks sad, Amanda insisted, her young face troubled. Amanda, that is enough, Stephanie snapped. Go stand by the counter with your brother. I stood frozen in place, unable to comprehend what was happening. People moved around us, the busy airport continuing its normal rhythm, while my world collapsed. Thomas, I said, reaching for my son's arm. Please talk to me. What is going on? He shrugged off my hand. Stop making a scene, Mom. We have a flight to catch. Tears welled in my eyes as the reality hit me. You never intended to take me, did you? This was the plan all along, to take my money and leave me behind. Thomas looked uncomfortable but did not deny it. Stephanie stepped between us, her designer handbag swinging from her arm, a bag I had likely paid for. We have earned this vacation, she said coldly. Do you have any idea how tiresome it is to deal with your constant calls and neediness? Thomas has his own family now. He does not need his clingy mother tagging along everywhere. I looked past her to my son, waiting for him to defend me, to say something, anything. He just stood there silent. Sir, ma'am, we need to complete your check-in, the airline representative called, looking uncomfortable with the family drama unfolding at her counter. We are coming, Thomas replied, then turned to me one last time. Go home, Mom. There is nothing for you here. He took Stephanie's arm and walked to the counter, leaving me standing alone. The children looked back at me, confusion and sadness on their small faces. Amanda tried to run toward me, but Stephanie grabbed her hand and pulled her along. Through my tears, I watched as they checked their bags, received their boarding passes, and headed toward security. Not once did Thomas look back. I stood there long after they disappeared from view, surrounded by travelers rushing to their own destinations completely alone. I did not know it then, but this cruel moment at the airport was just the beginning of my discovery about who my son had become and the lengths he and his wife had gone to deceive me. The journey home from the airport was a blur of tears and disbelief. The taxi driver, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, kept glancing at me in his rearview mirror. "Bad news?" he asked gently. I could only nod, not trusting myself to speak without breaking down completely. How could I explain to a stranger that my own son had just stolen $40,000 from me and abandoned me at the airport? When I arrived home, the emptiness of the house felt more oppressive than ever. My packed suitcase stood by the door where I had left it that morning, a painful reminder of the dreams that had been shattered. I could not bear to look at it, so I left it there untouched. In a daze, I moved to the kitchen and made a cup of tea I did not drink. The reality of what had happened was still sinking in. My son, my only child, had deliberately deceived me, planned this betrayal for months. And for what? A luxury vacation he could have simply asked for help with. I sat at my kitchen table until night fell, trying to make sense of it all. Had I been such a terrible mother that Thomas felt justified in doing this to me? Had I missed signs over the years that our relationship was not just distant, but broken beyond repair? My phone rang, startling me out of my thoughts. For a moment, hope flared. Perhaps Thomas had come to his senses, felt remorse, and was calling to apologize. But the caller ID showed it was just a notification from my bank about a large transaction. Curious, I opened my banking app. There it was, a cash withdrawal of $15,000 from Thomas's account that morning. $15,000 on top of the $40,000 I had already given him. Money that had likely come from my account through the joint account access I had given him years ago in case of emergencies. That notification became the first thread that, when pulled, began to unravel the full extent of their deception. Unable to sleep, I spent the night at my computer, digging through emails, bank statements, and social media. What I discovered left me sick to my stomach. Thomas and Stephanie had booked their Hawaiian vacation 3 months earlier, not through a travel agent as they claimed, but directly through the Four Seasons Resort. I found the confirmation when I searched my son's name, along with the hotel. There it was, a family package for 4 people, not 5. They had never intended to include me. Next, I discovered Stephanie had already been posting about their upcoming dream vacation on her Instagram account. "Finally getting our luxury Hawaiian getaway," she had written 2 weeks earlier. "Thomas and I deserve this so much after all our hard work." Not a word about it being a gift from me, not a mention of my inclusion. One post particularly stood out, a photo of Stephanie trying on expensive sunglasses with the caption, "Pre-Hawaii shopping spree. So grateful for our sudden financial blessing." The timestamp showed it was posted just days after I had transferred the initial $30,000. As I continued searching, the betrayal deepened. I found credit card statements showing Thomas and Stephanie had gone on a spending spree immediately after receiving my money. New luggage, designer clothes, expensive electronics, even a $3,000 watch for Thomas that looked nothing like the one I had carefully selected as his gift. Around 7 in the morning, exhausted but unable to stop my investigation, I received a call from Janet Miller, a woman I vaguely knew as Stephanie's friend. I was surprised she had my number. "Dolores, it is Janet, Stephanie's friend from her yoga class. I hope I'm not calling too early." "Not at all," I replied, wondering why she would contact me. "I just wanted to check if you are okay," she said, sounding uncomfortable. "I saw Stephanie's airport post this morning, and well, I was confused. She told everyone at yoga last week that they were using your vacation money to go to Hawaii without you. She was laughing about it, saying something about how easy it was to manipulate you." My hand tightened around the phone. "She said that in front of everyone." "Yes, and I thought it was horrible. She even showed us screenshots of text messages between her and Thomas, planning how to convince you to give them the money. I should have said something sooner, but I did not know if you would believe me. Stephanie has been bad-mouthing you for years, claiming you are interfering and manipulative." I thanked Janet for her honesty, promising to keep her name out of any confrontation with Thomas and Stephanie. After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence. Not only had they stolen from me, but they had been publicly mocking me, turning me into the butt of their jokes. The final piece of evidence came when I remembered an incident from months earlier. Thomas had borrowed my phone to make a call when his battery died during a brief visit. I now wondered if there might be something there. Searching through my text messages, I found he had never logged out of his account on my phone. The text exchange I discovered between him and Stephanie made me physically ill. Thomas, just talked to Mom. She is giving us $40K for a Hawaii trip. Stephanie, OMG, did she really fall for that? Is she coming with us? Thomas, no way. We will take the money and go ourselves. She is too trusting. It will be easy. Stephanie, what will you tell her when she asks why she does not have a ticket? Thomas, I will say it was a mix-up. She will believe anything. She is desperate to be part of our lives. There were dozens more messages detailing their plan, how to ask for the money up front, how to deflect my questions about itineraries, even jokes about how they would spend my retirement savings on themselves while I stayed home alone. The most damning evidence was an email Thomas had sent to Stephanie, accidentally using his account that was still logged into my phone. Mom is so gullible. We will have a luxury Hawaii vacation, and we will not have to deal with her constant neediness. Win-win. As the morning sun filled my kitchen, I sat surrounded by printouts of their deceit. Heartbroken does not begin to describe how I felt. This was not just a theft of money. It was a betrayal of the deepest kind, a calculated cruelty from the person I had sacrificed everything for. I tried calling Thomas one last time, needing to hear him explain himself to understand why. The call went straight to voicemail. When I tried Stephanie's number, I discovered they had blocked me. That afternoon, I received a notification from my banking app. Stephanie had posted a photo on Instagram of their family enjoying Mai Tais by the pool at the Four Seasons. The caption read, "First class all the way, living our best life in paradise." In the background, I could make out Amanda looking directly at the camera, her expression sad rather than joyful. Hours later, my phone pinged with a message from an unknown number. It was a picture of Amanda and a simple text, "Grandma, I miss you. Why could not you come with us, love Amanda?" That message from my innocent granddaughter was what finally broke through my shock and grief, replacing it with something else: determination. The days following the airport incident were the darkest of my life, even harder than when I lost Jack. At least with Jack's death, I had the comfort of knowing he had loved me until his last breath. This betrayal by my own child left me questioning everything, including my worth as a mother and a person. For nearly a week, I barely left my bed. I did not eat, barely slept, and ignored the ringing phone when friends called to check in. The thought of explaining what had happened, of admitting my own son had conned me out of my retirement savings, was too humiliating to bear. On the sixth day, my doorbell rang persistently, followed by pounding on the door. When I finally dragged myself downstairs, disheveled and weak, I found Marjorie standing there, arms crossed and face set in determination. "Good Lord, Dolores, you look awful," she said, pushing past me into the house. "I have been calling for days. I thought you were dead." "I am fine," I lied, my voice hoarse from disuse. Marjorie took one look at the unchanged suitcase by the door, my unwashed appearance, and the stack of untouched mail, and shook her head. "You are not fine. What happened to Hawaii? You were supposed to be soaking up the sun right now." The simple question broke the dam. Through sobs, I told her everything from the initial excitement to the cruel dismissal at the airport and all the evidence I had uncovered since. Marjorie listened without interruption, her expression growing darker by the minute. When I finished, she took my hands in hers. "Dolores Walker, you listen to me right now. What Thomas and that witch did to you is not just cruel, it is criminal. This was not a misunderstanding or a family squabble. They defrauded you of $55,000. "It was only 40, I corrected weakly. 40 plus the 15 they took from your account afterward, she reminded me. And the emotional damage is beyond calculation. You need to fight back. How? I asked, feeling defeated. He is my son. What am I supposed to do? Have him arrested? That is exactly what you should do, Marjorie said firmly. But first you need to talk to a lawyer, and I know just the person. The next day, Marjorie drove me to meet with Angela Davis, an attorney specializing in elder financial abuse and fraud. Angela's office was warm and inviting, nothing like the intimidating legal spaces shown on television. She was a black woman in her 50s, with kind eyes that hardened when she heard my story. Mrs. Walker, what happened to you is unfortunately more common than you might think, Angela said, after reviewing the evidence I had brought. Children defrauding parents, especially widows and widowers, has become an epidemic. The difference in your case is the overwhelming evidence you have collected. What are my options? I asked, still unsure if I could bring myself to take legal action against my own child. You have several, Angela explained. We can file a civil suit to recover the funds, press criminal charges for fraud, or potentially both. The text messages, emails, and bank records you have provide clear evidence of intent to defraud, which strengthens your case considerably. I sat silently trying to process the idea of taking my son to court. Angela seemed to sense my hesitation. Mrs. Walker, may I speak frankly? When I nodded, she continued, This is not just about the money. If Thomas and Stephanie face no consequences for this, what message does that send? That they can take advantage of you whenever they want, that your boundaries do not matter, that your love can be exploited without repercussion. Her words struck home. For too long I had allowed Thomas to drift away, making excuses for his behavior, always blaming myself. I had given and given, asking for nothing but a little time and affection in return. And this was how he repaid my unconditional love. What about my grandchildren? I asked, thinking of Amanda's text message. The courts generally try to preserve grandparent relationships when possible, Angela assured me. This case is against your son and daughter-in-law, not the children. I took a deep breath and made the hardest decision of my life. Let's do it. All of it. The civil suit, the criminal charges, whatever it takes. Not just for the money, but for my dignity. Angela nodded with approval. That is the right decision, Mrs. Walker. Now let's talk about timing. Your son and his family will be returning from Hawaii in a few days. We could have papers served immediately, or we could confront them directly with law enforcement present. I want to see their faces, I said, surprising myself with my newfound resolve. I want them to look me in the eye when they realize what they have done. Over the next few days, Angela helped me prepare for the confrontation. We gathered all the evidence into an organized file, made copies for the police, and developed a strategy for meeting Thomas and his family upon their return. Angela also helped me file the necessary paperwork to freeze the remaining funds in the joint account I shared with Thomas, preventing any further withdrawals. I contacted my bank to report the fraudulent $15,000 withdrawal. After reviewing the evidence, they opened an investigation and provisionally credited the amount back to my account pending their final determination. The planning gave me purpose, pulling me out of my depression. For the first time since the airport incident, I began eating regular meals again and taking care of myself. This was no longer just about my broken heart. It was about justice and self-respect. The night before Thomas and his family were scheduled to return, I hardly slept. But this time, it was not from despair. It was from anticipation. I rehearsed what I would say, how I would remain calm and dignified, even in the face of their inevitable denials and excuses. As I stood before my mirror the next morning, I barely recognized myself. The broken woman of a week ago was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who refused to be a victim any longer. I carefully applied my makeup, styled my hair, and put on my most professional outfit, a navy blue suit I used to wear to parent-teacher conferences when Thomas was in school. "Ready to reclaim your dignity?" Angela asked when she picked me up. "More than ready," I replied, clutching my file of evidence. "It is time Thomas learns that actions have consequences, even when those actions are against your mother." We drove to O'Hare International Airport, where Angela had arranged for us to meet with an airport police officer. Together we would be waiting when Thomas and his family returned from their stolen vacation. As we parked in the terminal lot, I felt a strange sense of coming full circle. 1 week ago, I had left this same airport broken and betrayed. Today, I would return stronger and determined to stand up for myself. The international terminal at O'Hare was crowded that afternoon, filled with travelers returning from worldwide destinations. Angela Officer Rodriguez and I positioned ourselves near the exit from customs, where passengers emerged after clearing immigration. Their flight landed 20 minutes ago, Angela informed me, checking her phone. They should be coming through soon. My heart pounded as I scanned each group of arriving passengers. What would Thomas say when he saw me? Would he be remorseful, or would he double down on his cruelty? There they are, Officer Rodriguez said quietly, nodding toward a family emerging through the doors. I immediately spotted them. Thomas looked tanned and relaxed, pushing a cart loaded with luggage. Stephanie walked beside him, designer sunglasses perched on her head, scrolling through her phone. Amanda and Jaden followed, both looking tired from the long flight. For a moment, I almost lost my nerve. Despite everything, this was still my family. Thomas was still the baby I had nursed, the boy whose scraped knees I had bandaged, the teenager whose homework I had helped with late into the night. Then I remembered his cold eyes at this very airport a week ago. I forgot to buy you a ticket. Just go home. I stepped forward into their path. Thomas saw me first, his relaxed expression instantly replaced by shock and then alarm. He stopped so abruptly that Stephanie bumped into him. "What is it?" she asked, looking up from her phone. When she spotted me, her eyes widened. "Dolores, what are you doing here?" "Hello, Thomas. Stephanie?" I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "We need to talk." Thomas glanced around nervously, noticing Angela and Officer Rodriguez standing nearby. "Mom, this is not the place. We just got off a long flight." "Actually, this is exactly the place," I replied. "The same place where you abandoned me after stealing my retirement savings." "Grandma!" Amanda called out, breaking away from her parents to run to me. I hugged her tightly, fighting back tears. "I missed you," she whispered. "I missed you too, sweetheart," I replied. Stephanie stepped forward, her face hardening. "Amanda, come here now. Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more private," Angela suggested, stepping forward and introducing herself. "I am Angela Davis, Mrs. Walker's attorney." "Attorney," Thomas repeated, his face paling. "Mom, what is this about?" "Sir, ma'am," Officer Rodriguez interjected. "We have a private room available where we can discuss this matter. Please follow me." Stephanie looked like she might refuse, but one stern look from the officer changed her mind. Silently, they followed us to a small conference room in the airport's administrative area. Once inside, with the door closed, Angela took control of the situation. "Mr. and Mrs. Walker, my client has evidence that you defrauded her of approximately $55,000 under the pretense of a family vacation that you never intended to include her on." "That is ridiculous," Thomas scoffed, though his voice lacked conviction. "Mom gave us that money as a gift." "A gift for a family vacation that was supposed to include me," I corrected. "Not for you to steal and leave me stranded at the airport." "We did not steal anything," Stephanie insisted. "It was a misunderstanding about the tickets." Angela opened the file and laid out copies of the text messages between Thomas and Stephanie, the bank statements, and the social media posts. "These do not suggest a misunderstanding, Mrs. Walker. They show clear intent to defraud." Thomas stared at the evidence, his face draining of color. "Where did you get these?" "You never logged out of your text account on my phone after you borrowed it," I explained. "And Stephanie's social media is public. You two were not exactly careful about covering your tracks." "This is invasion of privacy," Stephanie exclaimed. "Fraud is a criminal offense," Officer Rodriguez stated flatly. "Invasion of privacy is the least of your concerns right now." Thomas looked at the evidence again, then at me, his expression shifting from defiance to desperation. "Mom, we can explain. We were going to pay you back." "When?" I asked. After you drained my account of another $15,000, after you spent every penny I had saved. That was a mistake, he stammered. I thought you had approved that transfer. Liar, Stephanie suddenly snapped, turning on Thomas. This was your idea from the start. You told me your mother would never stand up to you, that she was too desperate for your attention to ever report you. Thomas gaped at his wife. Stephanie, what are you doing? I am not going down for this, she hissed. You have been taking money from your mother for years. The Hawaii trip was just the biggest score. The room fell silent as her words hung in the air. Years. This had been happening for years. Is that true, Thomas? I asked quietly. He looked away, unable to meet my eyes, which was all the confirmation I needed. Those times you called about emergency car repairs? I continued, memories suddenly clicking into place. The medical bills you said insurance would not cover. The investment opportunity you needed cash for right away. None of it was real, was it? Not all of it, he mumbled. Some of those things really happened. But most did not, I concluded. The children sat silently in the corner of the room, Jaden playing with a toy airplane, while Amanda watched the adults with wide, confused eyes. My heart broke for them, witnessing this ugly confrontation. Mrs. Walker, Officer Rodriguez said, based on the evidence presented, we have grounds to arrest your son and daughter-in-law for fraud. However, as this involves family, you have the option of pursuing civil remedies instead of criminal charges if you prefer. All eyes turned to me. This was the moment of decision. Despite everything, could I really send my own son to jail? I looked at Thomas, searching his face for any sign of the loving boy I had raised. All I saw was a man consumed by greed and entitlement, a stranger wearing my son's face. I want all of my money back, I said firmly. Every penny of the $55,000, and I want supervised visitation rights with my grandchildren. Mom, be reasonable, Thomas began. I am being extremely reasonable. I cut him off. I could press criminal charges right now and have you both arrested. Instead, I am giving you a chance to make this right. Angela stepped in. My client is prepared to sign an agreement today. You will repay the full amount within 30 days, plus legal fees. In exchange, she will not pursue criminal charges. Additionally, she wants guaranteed visitation with her grandchildren. 30 days, Thomas exclaimed. Where are we supposed to get that kind of money in 30 days? Sell the luxury items you bought with my money, I suggested coldly. Take out a loan. Figure it out just like I had to figure out how to get home from this airport after you abandoned me. Stephanie glared at Thomas. I told you this would blow up eventually. Your mother was never as stupid as you thought. Mrs. Walker, Angela continued. Did you purchase anything of significant value with the stolen funds? The resort stay, Stephanie admitted sullenly. Designer clothes, some jewelry. All of which can be returned or sold, Angela noted. Officer Rodriguez can accompany you to your home to ensure valuable items are surrendered as partial payment. Thomas and Stephanie exchanged glances, realizing they were cornered. The evidence was overwhelming, and they had just incriminated each other further with their accusations. Fine, Thomas finally said. We will pay it back, all of it. And the visitation with the children, I pressed. Yes, whatever you want, he muttered. As Angela drafted a preliminary agreement on her laptop, I noticed Amanda watching me intently. Despite everything, I gave her a small smile, wanting to reassure her that none of this was her fault. Grandma, she said suddenly, her voice small but determined. I saved something for you from Hawaii. She dug into her backpack and pulled out a small shell necklace. I bought it with my own money because I knew you were supposed to be there with us. That simple act of kindness from my granddaughter, amidst all the ugliness, nearly broke me. I accepted the gift with tears in my eyes. Thank you, sweetheart, I whispered. This means more to me than you will ever know. As Thomas and Stephanie signed the agreement, their faces taut with anger and humiliation, I realized that whatever happened next, I had already won the most important battle. I had reclaimed my self-respect and shown my grandchildren that love does not mean allowing yourself to be abused. Walking out of the airport that day with Amanda's necklace around my neck and the signed agreement in my hand, I felt something I had not felt since Jack died: hope for the future and pride in my own strength. 6 months passed since that confrontational day at the airport, bringing changes I could never have anticipated. The recovery of my money was only the beginning of a journey that transformed not just my circumstances, but my relationships and my sense of self. Thomas and Stephanie initially struggled to repay the money as agreed. They were forced to return many of their purchases, sell their second car, and take out a personal loan. The process revealed just how deeply they had fallen into a lifestyle they could not afford, using my generosity to maintain an illusion of wealth. 2 months after our airport confrontation, their marriage began to unravel under the strain. The mutual blame and resentment that had surfaced during our meeting only intensified as they faced the financial consequences of their actions. By the 4th month, Stephanie had filed for divorce, moving out and taking the children with her. I maintained my distance from their marital troubles, focusing instead on rebuilding my relationship with Amanda and Jaden. The supervised visitation agreement allowed me to see them every other weekend. Those precious hours became the highlight of my life. During our visits, I never spoke ill of their parents, despite the temptation. The children had already witnessed enough conflict and betrayal. Instead, I created a safe, loving space where they could just be kids, free from the tension that now characterized their home life. With my finances restored, I made a decision that surprised everyone, including myself. I sold my house in Chicago, the home where I had raised Thomas and lived with Jack, and purchased a small townhouse just 10 minutes from where the children lived with Stephanie. The fresh start felt right, a physical manifestation of the emotional new beginning I was embracing. As for Thomas, his journey was more complicated. After Stephanie left, he seemed to hit rock bottom, finally confronting the person he had become. He reached out to me with what appeared to be genuine remorse, not just for the Hawaii incident, but for years of taking advantage of my love. "I do not expect you to forgive me," he said during our first real conversation after the separation. "I would not forgive me either, but I want you to know that I am getting help." He had begun therapy, working to understand the roots of his behavior and the damage he had caused. I was cautiously supportive, but maintained clear boundaries. Trust once shattered could not be instantly restored, even between mother and son. For my own healing, I joined a support group for victims of familial financial abuse. The stories I heard there helped me understand I was not alone, that my experience, though painful, was unfortunately common. Many elderly parents found themselves exploited by adult children who viewed them as financial resources rather than people deserving of respect and consideration. Through this group, I met other survivors who had rebuilt their lives and relationships. Their courage inspired me to take my recovery a step further. With guidance from Angela, who had become a friend as well as my attorney, I established a small foundation dedicated to helping older adults recognize and escape financial exploitation. The Walker Wisdom Foundation began modestly with educational workshops at senior centers and an emergency fund for immediate assistance. To my surprise, local media picked up the story, and donations began flowing in. My painful experience was being transformed into something that helped others, giving meaning to what had seemed senseless cruelty. 3 months ago, something unexpected happened. Thomas asked if he could volunteer with the foundation using his marketing skills to help spread awareness. After careful consideration, I agreed, setting clear parameters for his involvement. Working side by side on the foundation became a neutral ground where we could slowly rebuild some form of relationship, one based on mutual respect rather than obligation or manipulation. Last month, I finally fulfilled my dream of visiting Hawaii, though in a way I never imagined. I took Amanda and Jaden during their school break, with Stephanie's reluctant permission. We stayed at a modest but beautiful hotel on Maui, far from the luxury resort their parents had chosen. On our first evening there, as we watched the sunset from the beach, Amanda slipped her small hand into mine. "This is better than the first time," she said simply. "Because you are here, Grandma." Those words healed something deep inside me that I had not even realized was still broken. The journey of the past 6 months has taught me lessons I never expected to learn at my age. I discovered that love without boundaries is not really love at all, but enablement. I learned that standing up for yourself is not selfish or unkind, but necessary and even compassionate. Most importantly, I realized that it is never too late to rewrite your story, to demand respect, and to create the life you deserve. Today, as I look at the shell necklace Amanda gave me, still hanging on my bedside lamp, where I can see it every morning, I am reminded that sometimes we must lose something precious to gain something even more valuable. I lost the illusion of a perfect relationship with my son, but I gained authentic connections, self-respect, and a purpose that extends beyond my own small world. For those of you watching, who might be facing similar struggles with family members who take advantage of your generosity, please know that you are not alone, and it is never too late to establish healthy boundaries. Your worth is not determined by how much you give or how much you tolerate. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to say, "No more." If you have been touched by my story, I would love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. Have you ever had to confront a loved one who betrayed your trust? How did you find the strength to stand up for yourself? Please like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to hear more stories of resilience and recovery. And if you know someone who might benefit from hearing this story, please share it with them. Sometimes knowing we are not alone in our struggles is the first step toward healing. Thank you for listening, and remember, it is never too late to reclaim your dignity and rewrite your story. The next chapter might just be the best one yet.